Hello everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Asus TV Accessories. Today, we present to you the disassembly of the ROG Ally console. Coming soon, a video on the operation of the console. The ROG Ally console from Asus. It is off to dismantling. We meet for the disassembly of a PC gamer in console format, the ROG Ally. The device is new. For the disassembly, it happens like on a classic PC. You have to remove the screws from the rear cover. Equip yourself with this toolkit with all its bits, as well as a storage box for the screws. To disassemble the cover of the ROG Ally, use a Phillips screwdriver. In principle, there is no trap on this product. In fact, there is a different screw in the middle at the bottom, shorter and easy to remember. Once we have removed the screws, I use the spatula for unclipping. That's it for removing the rear cover, the bottom. Here, we have the cooling system. Here, you have a thermal paper. We remove it to disassemble the device. Here, you have the unit storage in M.2 format. You can change your hard drive. This remains a classic SSD. You can add a 1 TB SSD. There, the storage unit. Here, we have the thermal module. This is the active part. Here, the passive part which is placed on your processor. Here, you have the battery system. Before putting the screwdriver inside, we pull the metal security system, disconnect the battery, and remove it. We remove the two screws, different from those on the fans. Here you have the warranty sticker that needs to be removed. You have a cable here that allows the connection between the two control cards of the joystick. We raise the lugs. LB sub and LB RB are for left, right. I remove my cable, which is just placed and not removed as it's stuck on the battery. I leave it. This is the end of removing the battery. If you have joystick problems, the joysticks are located under the two controller cards that are here. The rear knob switches are programmable knobs. We remove our controller cards on which you have your joysticks. You have micro cables here. When disassembling, you will have to release the cable. Do not pull in one go. We unscrew our controllers. The cable here, you have a plastic lug that you will have to lift to release the cable. It's meticulous. It's finished for the removal of the first controller card for the right joystick. I'm releasing the other side of the joystick. We do the same thing for the second joystick. Here, you have the speaker system, which is very efficient. Attention! On this one, on the left controller, you have two cables to remove, unlike the other controller. You have the same cable. I remove the tape and the cable. You remove the 4 screws. It's good for the second controller card of the left joystick. All that remains is to disassemble the motherboard as well as the sound system. For the motherboard, you have screws here that you must remove. Be careful, here you have cables. We always check the length of the screws. We remove the M2 SSD, gently lifting it up like on PCs. You pull it out. That's it for dismantling your storage unit. Originally, it's a 512 GB, but you can put 1 terabyte. If 2 terabytes come out, I think it should be compatible too. The 1 terabyte is compatible. We continue disassembling the motherboard. We have the 2 ventilation screws. Be careful, pull lightly, and if it doesn't come, don't insist. It's okay for a fan. The dismantling of your first ventilation system is finished. The active part. We continue with the second. The cables are very thin, so go carefully to avoid damaging them. We do the same thing with the second. It's finished for the second. Once you have removed your 2 cooling systems, there are some cables here. I unplug this screen cable, which allows you to have the display. I raise the lug, slide the cable, and remove the studs. Here you have the Wi-Fi antennas and the speaker cable. Here, you have a very small cable which is hidden. It is a clipped cable pressed on top. I raise it and pull gently. That's it for disassembling the motherboard. If your ROG Ally heats up, you need to change your thermal paste. We have a video for laptops. It's the same design, and you have the same method whether on a ROG Ally or on a classic laptop PC. Changing the thermal paste remains universal. I can remove the speakers which pass under the motherboard. I remove the 6 screws. It's finished for dismantling your sound system. It's stuck. That's a shame. If you break your front panel, you can recover the cables here. I unclip here to take out the cables. Pay attention to the button system and you can remove them easily. I avoid putting the front panel upside down. If you need to change your screen, you have exactly the same thing, but without the buttons. The complete cover, everything is crimped. Here your cable has to be reconnected. Time for reassembly of this magnificent console. Let's go for reassembly. All spare parts for this console are available on our site www.accessories-asus.com. The last part that I dismantled was the speakers. On this model, it is the first part since the connecting cable of the speakers is located under the motherboard. We're done the speaker system. I position the motherboard to check if everything is placed correctly. I explain how to insert the motherboard into the ROG Ally. If you change your screen, the cover will be without the accessories, without the buttons, without the start button. You will need to recover the controller systems for the light. This will not be delivered with it. Tilt slightly so that the buttons pass underneath. Be careful with the cables, put them underneath, and raise here. Be careful that the Wi-Fi cables are not pinched. I check that it is in place. It's okay since I have the correct clip of the L1 and R1 buttons. I screwed the motherboard back in. I had the impression that the motherboard has been raised because the button underneath raises the motherboard. I replace the screws of the motherboard, and I will put the cables back afterwards. I raise it slightly to avoid forcing the buttons. The screws are placed in all the places where you have a white triangle as a mark. The motherboard is screwed back in. And I check that the buttons are working as they should. So as not to have to dismantle again to check, they are well positioned and work. We put all the plugs that are not plugged in. I plug in the sound system, replace the screen cable, raise up, insert, and close it. We put the ventilation system back in, but first, we reconnect the Wi-Fi system. The ventilation is placed above, and this will bother us slightly. That's it for connecting the Wi-Fi studs. I reconnect this little connector, and there is no secret. You have to be in front of it before pressing it. To avoid damaging the cable, I reclip this cable. I position my M2 SSD and put the screw back in. All I have to do is put the ventilation back on. Be careful to put it back on the bottom and not in front, as this will prevent air extraction. Before putting the plug back on, I position the fan, glue it back here so that it is airtight so that the air comes out as required. I put the long screw back in. It holds the ventilation system. We do the same thing for the second. I check that everything is okay. We continue with the joystick controller cards. You will need to fit them, and you will have to pass this cable through a small hole. I put the joystick back in the hole. Do not force it. It must fall into place. I put the tape back on, screw the controller back on, put the little cables back, pick up here the plastic lug, insert the cable, and fold it down. Do the same thing with this cable, fold it down, put it back. For the first one, it's okay. We place the second one. On this one, you have to pass the cable inside this small hole. Here you have a small slot, and the cable must pass inside. First the joystick or first the cable. The plastic keying pins can annoy you, so don't force it. It's finished for the second joystick. I replace the only cable, raise the tab, insert my cable, fold down the plastic tab. I notice a small error which is not serious at all. I put the battery screws in. They are exactly the same. It's finished for the reassembly of the two controllers. I check that everything is okay. I position my battery. Position it like this. Try to keep the small rubbers, which prevent the components from moving inside and avoid vibration. I will reconnect here afterwards. I put the two screws here, put the two cables back in place, raise the lug, insert and fold. Do the same on the other side. That's it for reassembling the battery. I no longer need the screwdriver. I reconnect my battery. I position the bottom, reattach the cover. The only small screw is placed at the bottom in the middle, and I plug it in. It's finished for the reassembly of the ROG Ally console. Thank you for following this video. It's a pleasure to present these videos to you, especially for this PC version of a game console. Don't hesitate to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. See you soon for new videos.